The hood is up, and the midday sun is beating down hard on the asphalt. As she leans over the smoking engine bay, passing cars instantly begin to slow down. Drivers peer through their windows, ready to offer the universal gesture of assistance. To them, the script is already written. They see a damsel in distress, waiting for a technician, a husband, or a passing stranger to restore her world to order. But then she reaches for a 10-millimeter wrench. She doesn't look up at the slowing cars. She doesn't wave for help. She simply works. And in that exact moment, the social script is shattered. To the casual observer, this is a curiosity, perhaps even a novelty. But to the woman with the grease under her fingernails, it is something much deeper than a mechanical repair. It is a quiet, rhythmic act of reclamation. For over a century, society has whispered that the machine is a language women weren't meant to speak. By mastering it, she enters a unique mental space. This is the hidden psychology of self-sovereignty. And what happens to the human mind when we refuse to let the world fix our problems for us? We often talk about learned helplessness, the psychological state where an individual feels they have no control over their environment because they have been told repeatedly that they lack the capacity to change it. For women, the automobile has historically been the ultimate black box. Society has framed the car as a tool of freedom for the driver, but a prison of dependency for the owner. You are allowed to move, but you are not allowed to understand how you move. The woman who decides to pick up a torque wrench is doing more than saving $100 on an oil change. She is performing a cognitive remapping. She is moving from a state of passive dependency to active agency. She is deciding that her mobility will no longer be held hostage by her lack of knowledge. To understand why this shift is so profound, we have to look at the invisible barriers she had to climb over just to open the hood. History is a series of erasures. During the Great Wars, women were the mechanics of the world. They tore down aircraft engines and assembled tanks with a precision that was celebrated as a national necessity. But when the dust settled, the mechanical woman was quietly escorted out of the garage and back into the passenger seat. The 1950s and 60s engineered a new psychological archetype, technically fragile woman. Marketing and media created a world where mechanical competence was a masculine trait and technical ignorance was a feminine one. This wasn't just about labor, it was about power. If you don't know how a machine works, you are forever at the mercy of the person who does. The woman fixing her own car today isn't just fighting a broken alternator. She is fighting 70 years of cultural programming designed to keep her hands clean and her mind dependent. At the core of this behavior is self-efficacy, a term coined by psychologist Albert Bandura. It is the belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situations. When a woman fixes a complex mechanical issue, her self-efficacy doesn't just grow in relation to the car. It bleeds into the rest of her life. If she can master the timing belt, she begins to wonder what else she was told was too complex for her. However, she must first battle stereotype threat. This is the psychological phenomenon where a person feels at risk of confirming negative stereotypes about their social group. In the garage, the stakes feel higher for her. If a man breaks a bolt, it's a mistake. If she breaks a bolt, she fears it's proof that women shouldn't be mechanics. Overcoming this requires a high level of internal locus of control. There is also the beauty of embodied cognition. When she feels the click of a seated gasket or the resistance of a threaded nut, she is thinking through her body. This physical competence creates a grounding effect. In a world of digital abstractions and social performances, the mechanical logic of an engine is honest. It doesn't care about your gender. It only cares about the truth of the connection. Even today, The competent woman is often met with a strange mixture of admiration and condescension. She is brave for doing something basic. She is impressive for knowing the difference between a manifold and a muffler. This is what we call benevolent sexism. The idea that by overpraising a woman for a standard skill, we are still subtly suggesting that she is out of her element. She also faces the modern digital gate. Cars are becoming software on wheels, and the tools required to fix them are being locked behind proprietary codes. The right to repair is a gendered issue because it threatens the very autonomy these women have fought to build. Society tells her that she should value her time more than her competence, that she should just pay someone so she can get back to her real life. But they don't realize that for her, the garage is her real life. It is the place where she is most herself, because it is the place where she is most capable. We are taught from a young age that our value lies in what we can provide, how we look, or how well we follow the paths laid out for us. We are rarely taught the value of mechanical intimacy, the deep, wordless satisfaction of knowing exactly how the world around us functions. A woman who fixes her own car has decided that she will no longer be a passenger in her own existence. She has looked at the black box of the world and decided to open it. She understands that the grease on her hands is not dirt. It is a badge of clarity. So, as you look at the complex systems in your own life, the things that move you, the things that sustain you, and the things you've been told are too difficult for you to understand, ask yourself, how much of your life is a black box simply because you were told you weren't the right person to hold the key? And what would happen to your world if you decided to open it anyway?